Welcome to the Conquer Food podcast with Craig and Paula Williams, where we share tips, tricks and strategies from the coalface of the weight loss industry in the UK. We're going to help you to think, eat and move better. Ultimately, we're going to help you finally gain control and conquer food. Hey up and welcome to the Conquer Food Show. I'm your host. I'm on my own today, Craig Williams, and today we're gonna talk about 4 things that have been shown to kill motivation. So it follows on from a podcast that I did recently, where I looked at 4 blocks, four things that can block your motivation. Okay, so these on the flip side of that, these are things that will just kill it dead. All right, so we're going to dive into that now. Before we do, can I just ask you a favor? If you're getting any kind of benefit from these podcasts, if you are learning things and if it's inspiring you or even giving you a little bit of a giggle every now and again, please, on whatever platform you're listening to this on, just leave us a 5-star review and share it with your friends and family, anyone that you think would benefit from it. And if you're listening on YouTube, then please just hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because we upload these podcasts at different times, different days every week. And the only way to make sure that you're going to get a notification is to hit that little bell. Okay, so if you do that, it does 2 things. First and foremost, it lets us know that we're on the right track. Okay, because I'm just talking now. This isn't a conversation. However, just a little comment, a little bit of a review, and whatever, will tell us that we're giving you the right information, or even explain what else you want to hear. And the other thing it will do is it will help other people find this information. And like I've said before, there are people out there that are really, really, really struggling with food, with their lifestyle, with their habits, and also their exercise. And they need this information to help them. Okay, so if you leave a little review, then it's going to help people find it. Okay, so let's get into the main content today. So basically, a guy called Richard Clark from the USC Center for Cognitive Thinking did a study, and he looked at things that just kill motivation dead. And he listed 4 main factors, okay? So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through these factors. I'm going to give you a little bit of my own spiel on it, my own take on it. I want you to listen to it and just see if any of it resonates with you. I'm going to give you a couple of little tips to overcome some of them if they are sort of killing off your motivation. And obviously the aim of this podcast today is to get you cracking on, is to keep you going. We all want just a little bit more motivation. So anything that's going to sort of smother it and stop it dead, we need to get rid of that. All right. Otherwise, we're just not going to achieve all the things that we want to achieve, regardless of what it is, whether it's cleaning out your eating, whether it's losing weight, whether it's getting fitter, whether you're working towards a sporting event or a challenge. Okay. If we're not motivated, then or if not motivated to do the work that we need to do, then obviously, ultimately, we're just not going to be happy. So that's what this is about. Okay, for the 4 things that I'm going to go through one by one. The first one then is what we call a values mismatch. Now, values are a very powerful thing. Whenever I do any sort of one-to-one coaching with anybody, straight away I try to ascertain what is valuable to them, what values do they hold sort of with strong regard. Now, values are usually one word, like a one-word descriptive. Everybody's got values, things that are important to them. We pick them up through lots of different reasons. However, because we hold them in such high regard, we value them so much, if we have a mismatch between what we're trying to do and what we actually value, it really does kill our motivation. It stops us doing the things that we're trying to do. Now, an example for me is I am both a business owner, and therefore, I want to do work and I want the business to grow and I want it to be profitable and all this kind of stuff. But I also, one of my biggest values is freedom. And there has been times when I'm like, okay, I know I need to do this extra work, and here's a new opportunity that if we pursue that, then it could be really good for our business. But on the other hand, I'm like, but I don't want to give up the fact that I can just go for a paddle down the river whenever I want. I can go for a run whenever I want. I can head off and do a multi-stage event anywhere around the world, and that freedom is so important to me that it has stopped me doing things in the past. And there's loads and loads of different examples of that. Now, to sort of find out and work out what these mismatches are, the first step really is to establish what your values are. I don't know if you've ever done any work on values before, worked out what you value or what your values are, but there's a great book called The Values Factor, which is a great place to start. What you can also do as well is you can just go to Google and just type in, most common values, and it will bring up a list of about 50, 60 or whatever of the most common values. And what you can do is there's like a little 3-step process you can go through, which will roughly give you what your values are. And I suggest you do it. And these are the steps. So first of all, what I want you to do, I want you to look down through the list and I want you to pick out any value that just resonates with you. Okay. Now, when I'm describing that now and you're listening, you might be thinking, well, what does that mean? You will know. You'll read down through your list and you'll go, oh no, hang on a minute, that does actually mean something to me. You just get like a little bit of a feeling inside. An example of that is if I give you 3 words, you tell me which one kind of just creates a little bit of emotion or a bit of a response in the body. Cat, dog, shark. Most people, there are some people out there that respond to cat more, but most people respond to shark because the word itself just generates a response in the body. Now your values will do not the same feeling, but you will get a feeling. Okay, so that's an example of that. And I want you to go through the list, and we need to shortlist about 10 to 12 values. Okay, write them down on a piece of paper. If you want to pause this and go and do it now, then you can do. And then I'm going to go on to step 2. Okay, so we should have a list about 10 or 12. If you can't make it to 10, whatever, then that's fine. If you've got 15 or whatever, it's fine. You can still work with that, because the second step then is we need to kind of get rid of any duplicates. So what I mean by that is you may have, as an example, picked out religion and faith as important to you, right? Both great values. However, you might look at it and think, well, actually, does it kind of mean the same to me? And it is subjective to you, all right? You might think, okay, faith, well, I get my faith from religion. I sort of see it as the same thing. And what I want you to do, I want you to pick the word that you think best describes the value and then ditch the other one, okay? Because it is just a duplicate, okay? So work through the list and get rid of any duplicates. So you might have joy and happiness, and you might think, you know what, it's I value happiness more. That's the one that describes it better, or whatever. Okay, so work through, and you'll kind of see what I mean. All right, so we've kind of sifted down through our list now. The next step, what I want you to do is I want you to kind of work through, and I want you to put them. What we're looking for is the top 5, but not just the top 5 in any which way. We want the most important number 1. Now, you might have to do a little bit of reshuffling and moving stuff around, but what it's basically going to do is it's going to get you to cut the tail off all these values and end up with just your top 5. Now, the top 5 are really important because, they're going to control a lot of what you do in life. The others are still relevant, and there are times when you get what I call an outlier, one that's just miles, it's miles down the list, but every now and again, it just kind of gets in the way. But I don't want you to worry about them too much. I just want you to work out what those top 5 are. And once you've got them top 5 listed from 1 to 5, I want you to think about the goals that you've got, even if they're like soft goals that you've not really, you haven't like written them down, and SMART goals and all that kind of stuff. But maybe it's just like, I just want to lose weight, or it might be very specific, like I want to lose 10 pounds by May the 17th or whatever. And I want you to compare that to your values and see if there's a mismatch there. And so what I mean is you might have comfort and socializing as values, yet you're trying to go running on your own, 10 miles on your own in the cold, wet weather. You see how there's a mismatch there, and it can really kill off your motivation for actually doing stuff. Now, the way around that is you look for activities and you look for goals that are kind of in line with your values. Now, your values can change, and they do change throughout your lives, different stages of your life. But it's not something that changes quickly. Therefore, it's much easier to change your behavior and how you're actually acting out these behaviors to come more in line with your values until your values shift again. Okay, so that's kind of the way around that. So it's a great little exercise to do to kind of get started, regardless of whether you're trying to work on your motivation anyway. Just understanding what is valuable to you can be quite a powerful thing. Another thing that you can do in line with that is you can just Google again, love languages, the 5 love languages. It's a book. I don't know who it's by, but basically you can work through, and the idea is that you work out what your love language is, and then the idea is that you and your partner work out what your love language is. Like one person might respond really well to words of affirmation. Okay, they need to be told that you love them, that they look beautiful, or whatever. And another person might respond really well to gifts and going out for dinner and precious time together or whatever. And people have these different love languages, and what we tend to do is we tend to project our love language onto the other person. But for example, if like for me, mine is quality time. Okay, that's my number one love language, and Paula's is words of affirmation. So I might be going, okay, let's go for a walk together down by the river. And she might be like that. When are you going to tell me I'm beautiful? You see how there's a mismatch there? Now, what those love languages do as well is that they do establish what your values are as well. It's really, really interesting again. So to do that, you can just Google that, do the test or get the book or whatever, and just kind of see what you value. And that's going to help you when you're kind of putting your goals together and looking at your habits and all that kind of stuff. And really, we're looking for a mismatch that causes friction. A friend once described goals and values to me as like 2 discs spinning. And when your values are aligned, the 2 discs are kind of just running, side by side, and that's fine. But when you've got a mismatch, one disc is going the opposite direction and almost breaking the other one, and it's causing friction and heat and frustration and all this kind of stuff. And that's what we're trying to get past. Okay, the next one then is a lack of self-efficacy. So this is what it's kind of, it boils down to like how you value yourself. It's not other things that you value. It's you and your belief in yourself and whether you're good enough and worth it and strong enough, and all these positive things about yourself and at what level you kind of at with that. And some people just genuinely don't think they deserve to be happy and fit and healthy and all this kind of stuff. They spend so much time looking after other people that they kind of disregard themselves and think they're not worth it. And again, this can just absolutely kill motivation. Anyone that's got a strong sense of self-efficacy will view challenging problems as things to be overcome, things to be mastered. All right. So for me, the quarantine thing's going on at the minute, I'm like, okay, right, we need to get past this. We get to get through this, and we can do it. And that's kind of how I look at it. Now, somebody who's got a weak sense of self-efficacy will avoid that challenging task. Okay, so I don't know where you are on that. You might see it as like an obstacle rather than opportunity. Someone with a strong sense of self-efficacy they'll look to sort of develop a deeper understanding of the activities that they're doing. They will look to like form like more commitment. They will look to, how can I become more committed in this and do more and constantly looking at how they can move forward. And because of that, like they'll recover quite quickly from any setbacks or disappointments. Okay. Whereas someone who's got like a weak sense of efficacy, they will believe that like difficult things, difficult situations, difficult tasks are kind of beyond what they can do. Like I'll never be able to do that. So, so many people come to boot camp and they go, well, I'll never be able to run a marathon. I'll never be able to run a 5K, do a park run, finish this circuit, or do a burpee or whatever, and that suggests like a weak sense of efficacy. They'll tend to focus on like previous failings and like where they went wrong in the past instead of like their wins. And they're kind of, obviously low on confidence. Now, all of these things can be improved, but it does take a little bit of time. And what it starts with is just looking at your beliefs and just setting goals which are quite easy to do. And then constantly working on that and constantly just nudging up your efficacy or your self-efficacy every day or every little bit, okay, by doing things that they test you but don't test you a lot. So for example, instead of going, right, I'm going to start running, I don't believe for a minute I can run a marathon and all that kind of stuff. Don't start with thinking, right, I'm going to run a 10K or a 5K. Just start by putting your trainers on every day and just think, right, every day for a week, I'm going to put my trainers on, and put them on. Now you can do that. And once you've done that, you can go, right, well, I'll put my trainers on now. Every day for a week, I'm just going to walk around the block, because you can walk around the block. And then every day for a week, I'm going to jog around the block, or I'm going to jog a couple of K or what have you. Okay. And what we often do is we sort of, we look around and see what other people are doing, and, people are running marathons and all this kind of stuff. And you think, well, that's where I need to be. Well, it's not, because everybody starts somewhere. All you need to do is just start and just make your starting point really, really easy, so you cannot fail. And just look for the little wins there, and just keep building on those little wins. And the confidence will come in time. It really will. You've got to keep building it and building it and building it. So that's the second one, self-efficacy, which absolutely just kills motivation, because we can develop like learned helplessness, where it's just, what's the point of even trying, because I'm not going to be able to do it. But there's every point in trying, because as I say so many times, do you know somebody that has changed recently? Someone who perhaps didn't run or didn't do exercise or always ate crap, and now all of a sudden they're eating really well, they're losing weight, they're out running, they're doing the circuits and all this kind of stuff. Do you know someone like that? And chances are you probably do. But here's the thing, like, they're people, right? That's a person, whoever it is, and you're a person too, which means you can change too. You can do it. It just takes a little bit of focus on how you can get started, and the tiniest little thing. Okay, the next one then, the third one, is disruptive emotions. So these are emotions that knock you off track. All right, so it can be the silliest thing. Like, you're driving down the road and someone cuts you up, and you go, up there, you cut me up, and that's a lack of respect, and you're rude, and you didn't say thank you, and all this kind of, and then next thing you're like that. And then all of a sudden you're eating some crap food to make yourself feel better, just because you got wound up in a bit of road rage or whatever, or someone says something at work or at home, or the kids don't do what you think, or you've got an expectation for the way that people are going to react, and they don't react that way, and that throws you off kilter. And, so many little emotions that knock us off track. And the way to deal with this is to become aware of the triggers for unhealthy eating and the triggers for being lazy, in effect. Okay, what happens? Where are you? What's the environment? What's the situation? What's the context of when you're, perhaps eating crap food or being lazy or whatever it is? Okay, because once you start to identify what the trigger is, then you can start to think, okay, well, this is what happens. And the classic for me, as an example, was, I used to have a real problem with anger. When I left the Marines, I really kind of struggled, and I got mad and I got angry so many times, and I would just, the slightest thing, and I would smash up the computer and punch the wall, and, all sorts of different things. And what I'd also do as well is I would then eat crap food to help me feel better, because come on, as we all know, it can so easily become the default setting for so many different things, food, and it was for me. And it wasn't until I goes, I need to work on this anger thing, because it's just disruptive. It's disruptive to everything that I'm trying to do a business, working with people, and I'm trying to do this. And at the time I was doing freelance, personal training, and it was just not a good place to be and good thing to do. And it took becoming aware of the disruptive emotion to then be able to come up with a way of working around it. And the awareness is key for so many of these things. So start just sort of, catching yourself when you're feeling a bit shit or whatever. And what you can eventually do is learn how to change that. So for me now, if I start getting pissed off and angry and what have you, I'll look to change my state. So I might go for a shower or a run, or go and do a training session, or even just sit there and just play it out in my mind, and work out how I feel about it, rather than just react to it and respond to it without even thinking. And that really has kind of helped me. And there may well be, well, I'm pretty sure there definitely will be disruptive emotions that you experience, which are knocking you off track. Okay. And then the final one is, attribution errors. Okay, so this is the fourth one, attribution errors. And this is something where it's like, okay, well, this is what's happened and this is what caused it. But actually what we're saying caused it is completely wrong. Okay. So an example I'm going to give you for this is my eldest lad in the minute, he's on a bit of a health kick, and he's like, right, okay, I've put on a couple of pounds since quarantine, and as a lot of people have, and he's like, I feel a bit, my clothes are getting a bit tight, so I'm going to sort this out. And his thing was, right, okay, well, I'm going to cut out bread, all right, which is great. However, when you look at it, actually, there's some bigger hitters here. There's the 2 or 3 gins that you're having 3 or 4 times a week. There's the fact that you're not moving a great deal. Get out and move. He's basically attributed what's going on to the bread, and it might not necessarily be that. And it just takes a little bit of analysing what's going on. And if you're kind of thinking, well, I'm pretty sure I'm right, then it's good as well just to get someone who's got a bit of an unbiased view that's not in the frame, and therefore can see the picture, to have a look at what's going on and chat it through and kind of just make sure that what you're targeting or what you're putting down as attributing you to the results or lack of results you're getting right now is the actual cause. And it's not, and you've not got an error there where it's like, I thought it was doing right. A classic that you get with weight loss is people, strip out fat from their diet thinking, well, I'm trying to lose fat, therefore I'll strip out fat. But in doing that, they up their sugar, whether it's natural sugars, sweeteners or whatever, and they're actually getting bigger, but they're thinking, well, I've stripped out fat, that was causing the problem. And, and what proves this, as I say so many times, is, for years we ran scared of fat because it's the most calorific food group that we eat. And it's the same 3 letters, isn't it? Fat in food, fat on the body, and the uneducated will not uneducated, that's wrong, but the misinformed would believe it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So if I eat less of it, I'm going to have less in my body. Well, actually, it doesn't work like that. Basically the body fat that we have comes from we eat all the food that we get, we chew it up and we swallow it and we use some of it and all this kind of stuff, and stuff that when we've got like an imbalance and we've got too much energy, then what we will do is we'll reform all this excess of calories and this excess of energy, and then that will be then reconstituted and turned into body fat, and regardless of the food group that you're kind of eating, that's kind of what happens. So it's not, we don't eat like a couple of molecules of fat and then those same molecules go straight to our thighs. It really doesn't work like that. But we would attribute it to that. And then what people do is this, because they're running scared of fat, is strip that out. But here's the thing, if fat was the issue, right now, we have never eaten as much low-fat food as a society. And we've never done as much exercise. There's people doing double spin and double body pump and all this kind of stuff. Yet obesity is going up. And why is that? And the problem is that it's not the fat. It's not, we don't need to be running away from fat. It's the sugar predominantly that's causing us issues, So, and that's a very big example of an attribution error. And there may well be some attribution errors in your own health and fitness and all that kind of stuff. And it just takes a little bit of diving into it and thinking about it and, perhaps write down what you think is either knocking you off track or having the inverse of effect of whatever your goal is. So if you're trying to lose weight, what's causing you to put on weight or stay the same? If you're looking to get fit, what's causing you to be sedentary and not do your training sessions or not training hard enough? What is it that's causing that? And then, have a little think around that and, maybe even brainstorm, write it down on a bit of paper and just brainstorm around it and sort of think, is this right? Or am I attributing this to the wrong thing? And all in all with that, you've got to be kind of honest. You really have got to be honest with all this kind of stuff. Otherwise, there is no change without honesty. Okay, so they're the 4 things that this Richard Clark came up with, plus my little bit of spin on there. I hope you found this podcast of benefit. I'd love to hear your feedback from it. If you're reading through this list and you sort of think, yeah, that's me, and I get what you're saying, but how do I change it, and you want some more information how to change it, then let me know in the comments. I'll track every comment and I'll answer as many comments as I can personally, as much as I can. And like I said before, if you're getting benefit from this, then please leave us a review and share this podcast as much as you can. Okay, so bloody hell, I forgot the old theme music. There we go. Right, okay, same again. So next time on the podcast, there'll be another little solo podcast. I'm gonna talk about developing discipline and how discipline can be much more powerful than motivation itself. We all want motivation, but sometimes actually what we need is a little bit more discipline, a little bit more, let's just get it freaking done. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the next podcast. So until then, take care.